Hello everyone. In today's video I have three amazing, as always, horror books for you to check out. And the thing about all these three is these are very much character driven. They are terrifying, they do have monsters, they do have baddies, they have a lot of supernatural shenanigans going on. But I really loved a good flawed protagonist. Makes me feel better about my life, and the more flawed the better. And these three, the characters in here are simply wonderfully flawed, and I applaud them for it. But as a reminder, I have horror books for sale, and if you want to read any of the books you see on your screen, they are only $1 each at the link in the description. Be sure to check out my Patreon page. I only have one tier, and starting next month we're going to start delivering on free exclusive stories, exclusive videos, and other things, so be sure to check that out. And pick up your copy of Read More Horror t-shirts. There are many colors and sizes available. That link is down below as well. All right, let's get started. First book I want to talk about today is called As Good as She Gets. This is the third in the series, and it's coming out before the end of the month, so very soon. But this still gives you time to go back and pick up the first two books. This was the first book I've read in that series, but I was so happy with it and so amazed by it that I immediately went and downloaded the first two, and I'm going to start those soon. And of course I'll have my reviews right here. But this one can definitely be a standalone, so don't be afraid to pre-order this one. The thing that really stuck out about this book was the main protagonist. Prudence Osgood is her name, and talk about, like we were just talking about, flawed characters. Oh, she is a mess. She is an absolute mess because of things she's been through in her past. She's 44 years old. She's addicted to Oxycontin. She's addicted to alcohol. She's not a standoffish person, but she does not let anybody in, especially those who want to help her, who want to be her friends. And she wants to accept that friendship, but she is so mentally ill, it almost seems like, that she can't let them in. So she makes impulsive decisions that come back to bite her and are more harmful than helpful. And she relies on her friends to basically keep her alive, because without them, she might have been dead a long time ago. But she has a couple friends, and together they have this paranormal investigation team. We're going to find out some things about that from previous books in this book, and the author does a great job of catching you up on little things that happened in the past with this group and with our main character Osgood. But this is all going to be about a TikTok game called the Graveyard Game. And apparently a lot of young people, everything from 10 and 11-year-olds all the way up to 20-something-year-olds are playing this TikTok challenge game called the Graveyard Game. Except when they do it in a certain cemetery in Chicago where this book is set, there's a statue of like the Grim Reaper or something watching over some graves. And apparently once you crawl up this statue and stare into the hood where its face should be, all of these kids either are murdered horrifically or commit suicide. And once this group starts putting together exactly how many young people this involves, they realize it's far above the national average, especially since this is a TikTok game, so a lot of people worldwide are playing it. But for some reason, this statue at this cemetery in Chicago seems to be the one that has this effect on the people playing it. And it gets very gruesome. So of course they're going to investigate. And like I said, Prudence Osgood is a character that just jumps in ahead without really giving things much thought. And this is going to turn into a twisty, horrifying, very bloody tale as it goes along. And I absolutely loved it. This is a very queer horror novel, and I always love that too. I love to see all kinds of groups represented in my horror. And when it's done this well, it's always a thing of joy for me. And I absolutely dug the whole thing. Like I said, I immediately downloaded the first two books because of what I've read in this one. And you're just going to love it, because this has got everything from like a small little social club that actually might be a cult and might be holding something even more nefarious. There's another character in here. She's a psychiatrist, but she's got some things about her that are not exactly who she says they are about herself, things that she's hiding at first. And so we're going to hear from this cult-like group. We're going to hear from the psychiatrist, and of course you got Prudence and her friends. And it's just a good old bloody fantastic mess. I absolutely loved it. I highly recommend it, and you can pick up your copy at the link in the description. And next we have Evil in the Lake. Now, the name says it all, and trust me, there is some horrifying, there's something horrifying in this lake in this small town. And it's committed a series of drownings and murders that the police are just kind of brushing off as being accidental, of course, as they will in a horror book. But the thing about this is that this is the first book in a series called the American Exorcist series. And again, the two main characters are what really sets this book apart from just a standard horror novel, even though the story itself would have been good anyway. But when you add that extra layer of these fantastic characters and their back and forth, it makes it that much better in my opinion. And that's what really drew me to this book. Because the two protagonists are priests, Father Paul and Father Conrad. The bishop is forcing them to work together to investigate these drownings in this small town. Because there's somebody higher up on the Vatican level there who kind of knows some things and believes that this is the work of a demon. Now, Father Conrad is old school. He's an older gentleman. He's very, maybe not harsh is the right word, but he's very forward, very direct. And he believes in the Bible, absolutely. He believes in the demons and the angels and all the supernatural stuff that happened in the Bible. It happened exactly the way it said. Now, Father Paul, on the other hand, is younger, he's more liberal, and he's more open-minded. He believes the Bible is just, most of the stories are just allegories or examples, kind of like folk tales, you know, warnings to people on how to behave and how to act. He's not dismissing them, but he's dismissing the reality of it. And so, of course, they clash right away because of these differing views, because he doesn't know why he's been assigned to this case with Father Conrad, because he's a professor. You know, he might be a priest, but he's a professor. He wants nothing to do with this, investigating the supernatural. And, you know, going to towns like this and talking to people and having them think the Catholic Church is so out of touch that they're still trying to chase down demons. Whereas Father Conrad is like, I don't care about any of that. Demons are real. I've been fighting them my whole life. That's basically been my life in the church. I know they're real. I'm not trying to prove it to anybody, but we need to stop it. If this is the case. And so the conflict between these two throughout this book, you never know if they're going to really have each other's backs once the shit hits the fan, and it will, trust me on that. But once they get there, they're going to start experiencing some strange things. They're going to talk to some people who you just know are hiding something from them, even though we don't know what. We're going to meet some characters that are going to have surprising twists at the end. And that's another thing about this book. It has some very good twists at the end that I didn't see coming, that I thought was wonderful and fantastic. And all I can say is that I'm waiting for more from this duo. Because, you know, eventually they can agree to disagree without actually being too disagreeable to each other. But at first it's very contentious. And it's fraught with many, many pitfalls for both of them. And information is not being shared back and forth, and so you feel like when they're alone, because they don't have any backup from each other, they can be in grave danger, and they do at some point, and you'll have to read about that. But yeah, I can't wait to see more from this duo. I hope they are the protagonists in the books going forward. I think they make a fantastic pair, kind of like you know, one of those standard buddy cop movies, kind of from the 80s, you know, where they had the two, you know, the younger guy and the older guy, and you know how it is. Eventually they'll get along, but even though they might not agree on everything. But I absolutely love this book. It's filled with a horrifying creature. It's got these great characters. I can't recommend it highly enough. And again, you can pick up your copy at the link in the description. And last but not least, we have Intro to Chaos. Now, the interesting thing about this book, it's the shortest one on the list, so it's not going to take you long to read. But man, it grabs your attention right away. It doesn't let go. And again, I love these flawed, quirky characters. And there are just authors out there just giving me all of these great things all at once. And I'm highly appreciative of that. And in this book, we're going to meet the character named Chaos. That is her name. And she is, again, kind of a mess. She's running away from things that have happened in her past, and we'll read about that later in the book. But she's also trying to escape the ghosts that she sees. Yes, she has abilities. She can see ghosts. They don't bother her. They don't seem to want to do her any harm. They don't talk to her, even when she has questions about what they want and what they're doing there. But they do make her feel very unsettled, and it's very uncomfortable, because she finds herself sometimes saying something to the ghosts with other people around that, of course, can't see the ghosts. So it's one of those situations. But she decides randomly to go to the small town in California and hopefully start anew. But a ghost she has attached to her is following her there on the bus. And when she gets there, she meets some people. They decide, they'll let her stay for the night, because she doesn't know exactly what she's going to do yet. But that's all it takes, because she's going to find out very, very soon that this town, this small town, is very, very haunted. It has a very violent and bloody past that is seeping into the present, and nobody knows why. But there was a serial killer in town with bodies buried in a basement. One of their friends disappears just in the first day of her being there. He goes for a walk and never comes back, and now people are looking for him. And even though she wants to leave so bad, because she starts seeing other spirits in this town, she can't, because they helped her out, and now she feels obligated to try to stay to help them. But we're going to find out some things about this town, and some things about some of the people that were here in the past, and the horrible, horrifying things they did to themselves and each other, and why everybody considers this a cursed town. But the thing about Chaos is that she has died several times. She has died and come back. But when she's dead, and maybe not fully, but enough where her soul leaves her body, I guess, but she goes to the place we know as purgatory, or at least that's what she calls it. And it's different there, and she sees the horrors and the terrifying things that happen in this purgatory place. But when she comes back to the real world, anything that's happened to her over there, injuries or things like that, are still with her. So she could disappear out of the sight of people for like 8 hours at a time. And then when she comes back to life, she reappears, but she is covered in dust, she is bloody, she is bruised, because of some of the forces, some of the spirits that she meets over there, because not all of them are good. Some of them are very, very malevolent. And that's an aspect you're just going to have to read for yourself. It's very entertaining. And as they try to figure out how to help the spirits that seem to be trapped by this evil, that's all she wants to do, is release them so they can go into the light, or wherever they go. She's not sure. And this book never tries to tell you that she's sure, but she knows they go somewhere good and they can be at peace, and that's what she's trying to do for the friends of these people and this town that has kind of taken her in. And but it's not going to be without its hardships, and it's near-death experiences, and all kinds of creepy stuff is going to go on. And yeah, for being a short novella, this one really packs a punch, because it starts out strong and just keeps rolling along. It's got a great narrative, great set of characters, as I said, and it's something you definitely want to read. I believe this is the 35th book in the Rewind or Die series, which are all individual stories from various authors. That's been going on for a couple of years now, I believe. And yeah, it's a great collection. Every book I've read from that Rewind or Die has been fantastic. And yeah, this one's no exception. Definitely want to pick it up. It's coming out, I believe, early next month, and there is a pre-order link in the description, and I highly recommend it. And as always, I want to say thank you for taking some of your time and spending it here with me. And until we meet again, keep reading spooky, my friends.